In the far reaches of the galaxy, on the floating station called Orion Prime, there was a palace made of shining metals and glowing crystals. Its towers reflected the stars in every direction, and the hallways stretched farther than anyone could see. For centuries, the Queen of Galaxies had ruled from this palace. Her power was unmatched, her wisdom legendary, and her presence commanded respect. But along with her greatness came silence. No one dared speak to her without permission. None could make a sound that was not measured and controlled. The Queen had once been kind and warm, but after many wars and betrayals, she had grown distant. Her throne room floated above the main hub of the station, held by energy beams that shimmered like sunlight on water. Doors of silver and gold led inside, and only those who served her closely could enter. Outside her chamber, guards stood silently, their eyes sharp and bodies stiff. They had served the Queen for decades, and they knew her moods better than anyone. A single wrong word or a gesture of disrespect could mean exile or worse. Even high-ranking ambassadors from neighboring star systems did not dare speak without permission. Among the many who worked on Orion Prime were humans, though few had ever seen them outside maintenance crews. Humans were rare in this sector of the galaxy, often underestimated but necessary. They fixed broken machinery, cleaned the endless hallways, and carried out small tasks that the station's residents considered beneath themselves. One such human was Tom, a single father who had traveled from Earth seeking better work and a safer life for his daughter. Tom was simple in appearance, with rough hands from years of labor and eyes that held quiet kindness. He did not care for wealth or power, only for the well-being of his small family. Mia was 7 years old, small for her age but full of energy. She had dark brown hair tied in 2 uneven braids and eyes that shone with curiosity. While Tom worked his long hours as a janitor, Mia followed him around, sometimes playing quietly, sometimes wandering into places she was not supposed to see. She was fearless in a way that made her father nervous, but her heart was always kind. One morning, the station hummed with its usual energy. Robots floated through corridors delivering supplies, starships docked in the bays with soft clangs, and creatures from countless worlds hurried through the halls. Tom pushed his cleaning cart down a wide corridor lined with golden panels, careful not to trip over Mia, who had already run ahead. She stopped suddenly before a door that was taller and more magnificent than any she had seen before. Its surface gleamed like liquid silver, etched with symbols that pulsed faintly with light. Tom called to her, but Mia did not move. Her small hand reached out to touch the door. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, the symbols glowed brighter. Tom rushed forward, worried, but before he could reach her, the door began to open. Guards appeared from the shadows, their armor clanking softly, and froze in place. From the chamber beyond stepped the Queen of Galaxies herself. She was taller than any human, her form elegant and strong. Her skin shimmered with a subtle silver glow, and her hair flowed like liquid starlight. Her eyes, bright and piercing, scanned the corridor with calm authority. The entire hallway fell silent. Creatures who had been moving quickly froze mid-step. Even the guards who had stood at attention seemed to hold their breath. No one had ever approached the Queen uninvited. They knew the rules. Respect was not enough. Absolute obedience was required. Mia, however, did not flinch. She tilted her head slightly and smiled at the Queen. In her small hands, she held a paper flower she had made while her father worked. The flower was simple, colored with crayons and folded carefully, but to Mia, it was perfect. She stepped forward, offering the gift without hesitation. The Queen's eyes widened slightly. She had never been offered anything in this way. Subjects usually bowed, waited silently, or left offerings in the designated chambers. A small human child standing boldly in front of her, smiling and extending a hand, was new. The Queen reached out slowly, and for the first time in decades, her fingers brushed the soft paper. "What is this?" the Queen asked, her voice low but clear. It carried a musical quality, like the hum of stars in motion. Everyone around her froze. Even the guards dared not move. "It is a flower," Mia said simply. "I made it for you." Flowers make people happy, even when they are sad. The queen studied the small creation in her hand. She was tall, powerful, and feared by many, but a small human had dared to speak to her, and she had spoken with kindness. A faint smile began to form on her lips, the first anyone had seen in years. Tom finally reached Mia's side, panting. "Mia, you should not," he began, but he stopped as he saw the queen. Fear, awe, and relief battled inside him. His daughter had done what no one else had dared. And the queen, instead of anger, looked pleased. "Your courage is unusual," the queen said. "Most would cower before me." "I was not scared," Mia said honestly. "I wanted to give you this. My dad says, giving makes people happy." The queen's hand softened around the flower. She examined the delicate folds, the uneven petals, and the bright colors. Something stirred inside her, something she had not felt in a long time. Warmth. A memory of her childhood, of gifts from her mother, of moments before war had stolen joy from her life. She looked down at Mia and saw not just a human child, but a spark of bravery and innocence that she had long forgotten. The hall remained still. Whispers and movements had stopped. Creatures held their breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The queen looked at Tom, the janitor, and for the first time, she acknowledged him. "Your child has a brave heart," she said, her voice softening. "And so do you, for raising her well." Tom bowed slightly, unsure what words to offer. His life had been ordinary, quiet, and sometimes difficult. He had never imagined that a simple act by his daughter could reach someone so powerful. "May we come in?" Tom asked cautiously, gesturing toward the throne room. The queen studied them both for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Enter," she said. Her voice carried authority, but also a hint of curiosity. "Come closer, human. Let me see the world through your eyes for a moment." Mia gasped softly in excitement. Tom followed cautiously, pushing the cleaning cart aside. The guards remained still, unsure how to respond. The palace had rules that had been unbroken for decades, yet the queen herself was allowing this. They stepped forward carefully into the vast throne room. The room was enormous. The walls shimmered with crystal panels, reflecting light from countless stars outside. Floating platforms carried attendants who hovered silently. The throne sat on a raised dais, carved from a single piece of glowing stone. The queen motioned for them to sit on a low platform nearby. Mia carefully placed the paper flower in front of her, proud of the small gift that had brought them here. "Tell me about your world," the queen said. Her eyes focused on Mia. "I have seen many civilizations, but yours is new to me." Mia's face lit up. She described Earth in simple words: the green forests, the blue oceans, the animals, the sun and rain, the games she played, and the meals her father cooked. She spoke of kindness, friendship, and small joys. Tom watched silently, amazed that his daughter could hold the attention of the Queen of Galaxies. The queen listened carefully. She asked questions, not as a ruler to a subject, but as someone genuinely curious. "And what makes people happy there?" she asked. Mia thought for a moment. "Being together, helping each other, and giving gifts sometimes. Like this flower," she said, pointing to her simple creation. The queen smiled again, and this time it was wider, warmer. She leaned back slightly, considering the words of a 7-year-old human. She realized that in her long life, she had never stopped to think about simple joys. She had spent so long ruling, commanding, and fearing betrayal that she had forgotten small kindnesses. "Perhaps I have forgotten something important," the queen said softly. "Perhaps there is value in small acts that seem insignificant to the powerful." Mia nodded eagerly. "Yes, little things can be big sometimes." Tom felt a surge of pride and relief. He had struggled to raise his daughter alone, never expecting that her courage and kindness could reach someone so extraordinary. The queen turned her gaze back to him. "You are a good father," she said. "It is rare to see such care and love. You and your daughter have reminded me that even the smallest beings can change the course of hearts and actions." Guards exchanged uncertain glances. This was unprecedented. No human had ever been praised by the Queen of Galaxies. Her words were like sunlight breaking through a storm. For the first time in many cycles, the palace felt alive with a quiet warmth. It was not power or fear that ruled now, but curiosity, kindness, and connection. Mia's small act of giving had broken a barrier that centuries of silence had built. The queen reached out and gently touched Mia's hand. "I shall keep this flower always," she said. "It will remind me that courage and kindness can come from the smallest of beings." Mia beamed, holding her head high. Tom stood beside her, humbled and proud. The palace was no longer just a place of order and fear. It had opened a small window of light. The queen herself had allowed it. And in that moment, human Janitor and his daughter had done what no one else in the galaxy had dared. They had spoken to the queen, and she had listened. After the encounter in the throne room, life on our Prime slowly began to shift. The palace, once a place of strict rules and cold formality, now held a quiet curiosity. Creatures and attendants whispered in corners, unsure how to react to the presence of a human child in the queen's chambers. For centuries, no one had dared approach her. Now, a little human had not only approached, but had been welcomed. Mia's mornings became filled with small adventures. Each day, she walked beside the queen through the corridors of the palace. Carrying a small satchel with paper, crayons, and tiny tools, Tom had been given permission to work nearby, which allowed him to see Mia's bravery and kindness in action. While he scrubbed floors or repaired conduits, he watched his daughter interact with beings and creatures who had once inspired fear in everyone else. The queen, who had once remained isolated in her chamber, now began asking questions about the human's world. Mia explained the simplest things with excitement. She described rain falling on leaves, the taste of fresh fruit, games played with friends, and the warmth of family. The queen listened carefully, leaning closer, as though trying to capture each word and remember it forever. She asked questions about courage, love, and friendship, trying to understand emotions she had long ignored. One afternoon, the queen led Mia to a large observation deck that overlooked the galaxy. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, some glowing blue, others gold, and a few deep red. Planets rotated slowly, and distant nebulae painted the void with color. Mia pressed her small hands against the crystal railing, her eyes wide. "It is beautiful," she said softly. "So many stars. So many places to explore." The queen smiled. "Many have seen this view, but none have looked at it with your eyes. Your wonder reminds me of what I have forgotten." Mia turned toward the queen. "You do not have to be alone. People can help you, and you can help them too. That is what my dad says." The queen studied her for a moment, considering the words. She had spent centuries surrounded by her advisors, generals, and servants, yet none had ever reminded her of the value of simple connections. In Mia's eyes, she saw courage without fear and kindness without expectation. The child's small voice had begun to melt the walls the queen had built around her heart. Over the following days, Mia introduced the queen to simple human crafts. She folded paper into birds, flowers, and stars, showing the queen each step carefully. The queen's hands, usually precise and careful in handling galactic instruments, now learned patience through tiny folds of paper. She laughed softly when her paper cranes fell apart, and she celebrated with quiet pride when they held together. Tom watched silently from the doorway, amazed that his daughter's creativity had reached someone so powerful. For years he had struggled to teach Mia lessons about courage and kindness, never expecting that they would ripple outward to touch a queen of the galaxies. He realized that even the smallest human gestures could create waves in places he had never imagined. The palace attendants began to notice subtle changes. Guards who had once maintained perfect rigidity now smiled quietly when Mia passed by. Creatures who had feared the queen's presence began to approach, offering small gifts or performing simple tasks with less anxiety. The queen, once distant and formidable, now moved through her palace with a newfound patience. The hum of life in our Prime grew warmer, more inviting, as if a small human child had shifted the very atmosphere of the station. One evening, Mia sat with the queen in a quiet room filled with glowing crystals that pulsed gently with light. The queen had asked her to share a story from her home planet. Mia described her neighborhood, her school, and her favorite park, speaking of the friendships she had made. She explained how people helped each other, celebrated birthdays, and shared meals together. She spoke of the small joys humans often overlooked, the laughter of friends, the kindness of strangers, and the feeling of safety with family. The queen listened, enraptured. She had witnessed countless civilizations rise and fall, had conquered planets, and had been trusted with immense responsibility. Yet none of it had taught her the lessons Mia shared so simply. She realized that while power could command obedience, it could not create connection, warmth, or true courage. Those came from the heart, and Mia's heart was pure and fearless. "Your stories are simple," the queen said softly, "but they carry truths that my advisors have never spoken aloud. Courage and kindness are stronger than armies or weapons. You remind me that even the smallest acts can matter." Mia smiled, proud that her words had reached the queen. "Even humans are small compared to stars. But we can still do important things," she said. The queen's eyes shone with quiet emotion. For centuries she had measured importance by power and authority. Now, a child had shown her that impact was not measured by size or strength, but by heart and action. She touched Mia's shoulder gently. "You have taught me more than anyone else in a long time," she said. News of Mia's visit spread quietly through the palace. Other children of visiting diplomats heard of the little human who had spoken to the queen. Workers whispered of the janitor's daughter who had tamed the heart of the most feared ruler in the galaxy. Even distant stations caught wind of the story, while many doubted it at first. The tale of the human girl's courage and the queen's laughter became a quiet legend in the making. One day,
The queen asked Mia to help her with a special project.
there was a star map in her chamber, showing every system she ruled. For centuries, the map had been used only for strategy and planning. Mia, with her simple human creativity, suggested decorating it with paper stars, each representing kindness and bravery she had observed in people across the galaxy. The queen agreed. Together, they began to place the small stars on the map, marking acts of courage, friendship, and generosity from distant planets as they worked. The queen shared stories of her own life. She spoke of the wars she had fought, the victories she had won, and the losses she had endured. Mia listened intently, asking questions with wide-eyed curiosity. She did not judge or fear, only sought to understand. The queen found relief in her presence, a sense of being heard without expectation or threat. Tom, observing from a distance, felt a swell of pride. His daughter had not only befriended the queen, but had begun to change the very way she ruled. Through simple acts of kindness, Mia had opened the queen's heart to joy, curiosity, and the possibility of connection. Other humans on the station began to notice the change as well. They had always worked quietly, invisible among the grandeur of Arion Prime. Now, the queen smiling more, moving more freely, and engaging with her people, the station itself seemed warmer. Orders were less harsh, punishments less severe, and workers felt the subtle shift in energy. A small human child had created ripples that touched everyone. The queen's advisors were cautious but curious. They had spent decades guiding the ruler of galaxies, ensuring obedience and maintaining control. Now, they watched as a child from Earth taught lessons they had long ignored. Some were skeptical, but most could not deny the transformation. The queen laughed more, listened more, and even questioned advice when it did not align with kindness and fairness. Her strength remained, but it was tempered with compassion. Mia's relationship with the queen grew steadily. Each day brought new lessons, new projects, and new conversations. They painted murals together on hidden walls of the palace, created small gardens of glowing plants, and crafted intricate paper animals that floated gently in the air. The queen learned patience, joy, and the courage to smile again. Tom continued his work quietly. Knowing that Mia's bravery had changed more than just the queen, he saw hope spreading through the palace. Through the station, and perhaps even beyond, he realized that humans, though small in size, had hearts capable of moving mountains and touching stars. His daughter had shown that courage did not always roar. Sometimes it simply offered a flower. One evening, Mia brought her final project to the Queen. It was a paper mural depicting planets, stars, and creatures from many worlds. In the center, she placed a small human figure holding a flower. The Queen examined it carefully, her eyes shining. She touched the small paper figure with her finger. "You have shown me that even the smallest being can have the largest impact," she said. Mia smiled proudly. "Even humans can reach the stars," she said simply. The Queen laughed softly, a sound that had not been heard in her palace for decades. "Yes," she agreed. "And you remind me that kindness, courage, and love can rule more effectively than fear ever could." And in that quiet moment, the palace, the station, and even the stars beyond seemed to hum with a new energy. A human child had opened the heart of the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Her courage, innocence, and kindness had begun a change that no one could have predicted. The Queen of Galaxies was no longer silent, and the world around her was starting to feel alive in ways it had never known. The transformation in the palace of Orion Prime continued to grow. The Queen of Galaxies, once feared and distant, now moved through her halls with calm authority and warmth. Her advisors noticed the change, some with curiosity and some with hesitation. They had spent decades guiding her rule through strategy and discipline. Yet the influence of a small human child was proving more powerful than any counsel or plan. Mia, the janitor's daughter, had become a symbol of courage, kindness, and hope. Mia's daily visits to the Queen's chambers had become the highlight of her day. Each morning, she skipped down the wide corridors of the palace, carrying her satchel of paper, crayons, and small tools. Tom followed behind, quietly observing her bravery. It was rare for a human to move freely in the palace, but the Queen's favor had opened doors that had been closed for centuries. One morning, the Queen called Mia to the observatory. The walls of the room were made of crystal, giving a clear view of countless star systems spinning in silence. From this height, the galaxy appeared endless, a tapestry of light and shadow stretching far beyond imagination. "I wish to show you something important," the Queen said, her voice gentle yet commanding. "You have taught me about courage, kindness, and the power of small acts. Now I want to show you the responsibility that comes with seeing the galaxy in its full scope." Mia's eyes widened. She had learned about responsibility from her father, about helping others and doing what was right, but seeing the galaxy through the Queen's eyes was different. Every star, every planet, every civilization carried life, history, and stories. The Queen pointed to distant planets and explained their importance. Some were rich with resources, others were home to peaceful civilizations, and a few were recovering from conflict. "You see," the Queen said, "each world depends on decisions made here. One wrong choice can affect millions. But your heart, Mia, reminds me that decisions are not only about power or strategy. They are about people, hope, and courage." Mia nodded, thinking carefully. She understood the weight of responsibility, even if she had never ruled a planet or led armies. "Then we should help everyone, not just the strongest or the richest," she said simply. The Queen's eyes shone with approval. "Exactly. You see what many fail to see? Your vision is pure, and it carries a wisdom that adults often forget." Word of Mia's influence slowly reached the council of the Queen's closest allies. They had been skeptical at first, expecting the child's bravery to fade or her presence to be a passing curiosity. Yet they saw the changes in the Queen herself. She smiled more, laughed more, and spoke with her people openly. Policies were reconsidered with fairness, and decisions were measured not only by strength, but by compassion. The human child had shifted the balance of the palace, and with it, the way the galaxy was viewed. One day, a messenger arrived from a distant system. Reports of unrest had spread, certain planets facing shortages of resources and minor conflicts among neighboring colonies. The Queen called her advisors together. "We must act quickly," she said, "but we must act with care. Strategy is not enough. We must consider the hearts of those affected." Mia listened closely as the Queen spoke. She raised her hand hesitantly. "Maybe we can help them with what they need and not just with orders. If people feel cared for, they might work together better." The advisors exchanged glances. It was unusual for a child to offer advice in these matters, yet the queen did not dismiss her. She nodded thoughtfully. "You are right, Mia. We will send aid, not only in supplies, but in guidance and understanding. We will listen, not just command." The first mission to carry Mia's idea was prepared. Human workers, soldiers, and volunteers were sent to the troubled planets. They brought food, tools, and medical supplies. But more importantly, they spoke with the people, listened to their stories, and understood their needs. Leaders on the planets were astonished at the approach. They had expected orders and commands, perhaps even force, but instead, they received kindness, attention, and guidance. Mia's influence began to spread beyond the palace. Stories of a small human who had touched the queen's heart reached distant systems. Other humans working on Arian Prime were inspired. They saw that courage and kindness, no matter how small, could create change. A simple act of offering a paper flower had sparked a chain of compassion that was now moving across the galaxy. The queen took a special interest in one particular planet. The planet had suffered a long drought, leaving fields barren and rivers dry. Crops failed and food was scarce. The queen sent a team led by Mia, Tom, and a few trusted aides. When they arrived, Mia ran among the villagers, helping where she could. She listened to their worries, shared simple games to lift spirits, and encouraged cooperation. The queen observed the mission from the palace through her crystal observation deck. She marveled at how Mia's small actions had grown into something greater than any army or fleet. People responded to care and attention. They worked together, shared resources, and found creative solutions. The queen realized that leadership was not only about commanding power, but about inspiring hearts. While the human mission continued, the palace faced another challenge. Some neighboring systems were suspicious of the queen's change in approach. They had grown accustomed to her fearsome reputation and worried that she had become weak. Envoys arrived, questioning her decisions, testing her resolve. The queen listened calmly, then spoke with clarity and firmness. Strength is not only measured by fear. True strength is the courage to act with kindness and the wisdom to listen. Mia watched from a distance, feeling a mixture of awe and pride. She understood that the queen's decisions affected countless lives. Yet she also saw that the lessons she had taught the power of small acts, the importance of courage, and the value of kindness had taken root in the heart of the galaxy's most powerful ruler. One evening, the queen invited Mia and Tom to the Grand Hall for a celebration. They had returned from the mission on Sarian, and the villagers had sent messages of gratitude. The hall, usually reserved for grand formal events, was filled with laughter and light. Humans, aliens, and other beings mingled, sharing stories and joy. The queen, standing tall and radiant, addressed the gathered crowd. "Today," she said, "we celebrate more than victories or conquests. We celebrate courage, kindness, and the power of small acts. One human child reminded me that even the smallest being can inspire greatness. Let this be a lesson to all who seek to lead. Care for your people, listen to their hearts, and act with kindness." Applause filled the hall, and Mia's cheeks turned bright red. Tom squeezed her hand proudly. For a small child, she had achieved something extraordinary. The queen, once distant and unapproachable, now embraced the warmth of the people she ruled, guided by the innocence and courage of a young human. In the days that followed, the ripple of change continued to grow. Systems previously in conflict began negotiating peacefully. Inspired by the approach championed by the queen and influenced by Mia's vision, aid missions were planned with care, not only providing resources, but also listening and understanding. The galaxy, once ruled by fear and strict control, began to feel alive with hope. Mia continued her daily visits to the queen's chambers. They folded paper stars and flowers, painted murals, and created small floating gardens. Each creation carried a message: courage, kindness, and hope. The queen learned to laugh freely, to speak openly, and to see the value in small gestures. Her advisors, once skeptical, began to recognize the power of these lessons. they started incorporating care and understanding into their own work. Seeing the positive impact on the people they served, one afternoon, a new challenge arrived. A neighboring star system, Zorath, threatened to seize control of a resource-rich planet. The Queen called Mia to her side. "This is a test of courage and wisdom," she said. "We must act, but we must act with care. What do you suggest?" Mia thought carefully. "We can speak to them first and listen. If they feel respected and understood, they might agree without fighting. And if they see that kindness is stronger than fear, they might choose peace instead of war." "You are right. We will send envoys, but with your guidance in mind. Courage is not only fighting, it is also seeking understanding." As preparations began, the Queen observed Mia working alongside the human team. Her creativity, bravery, and kindness inspired confidence in everyone around her. Even the most skeptical soldiers found themselves smiling at the child's ideas. Seeing the power of compassion in action, Mia's influence had grown far beyond what anyone had imagined. She had entered the palace as a curious child, offering a simple paper flower. Now, her courage and kindness were shaping decisions that affected entire star systems. The Queen, once feared across the galaxies, now ruled with warmth, wisdom, and a renewed understanding of what it meant to lead. The galaxy watched, slowly learning that even the smallest beings could create change. One human child had shown that courage and kindness were stronger than fear. One janitor's daughter had reminded a queen that the heart, not only power, could shape worlds. And so, life on Arion Prime continued, vibrant and alive. The palace no longer felt cold or distant. The stars seemed to shine brighter, and the galaxy itself seemed to hum with. Life on Royan Prime had changed completely since Mia. The janitor's daughter had first offered the paper flower to the Queen of Galaxies. The palace was alive with warmth, laughter, and creativity. Humans, once unnoticed, were now respected for their courage and insight. Mia's small acts of kindness had grown into a movement that influenced the way the Queen ruled and how her people behaved. But with this new hope came new challenges, far beyond the walls of the palace. One morning, as sunlight from a nearby star painted golden streaks across the crystal corridors, the Queen called Mia to her observation deck. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, filled with stars, planets, and distant nebulae. The Queen's expression was serious, and even Mia sensed a weight in her presence. "Mia," the Queen said, her voice calm but firm, "the galaxy is not always peaceful. There are systems beyond our borders that grow impatient, seeing our kindness as weakness. Some seek to test our resolve. We must act carefully, or entire civilizations could suffer." Mia nodded. She had learned that courage was not only in speaking or creating, but also in facing difficult situations with thought and care. "What can we do, Your Majesty?" she asked. The Queen pointed to a cluster of distant planets. "The Zorath system is planning to invade a smaller, neighboring planet. Their fleets are large, and their intentions are aggressive. If we do nothing, the inhabitants will be destroyed or enslaved. If we act with wisdom and courage, perhaps we can prevent a war without bloodshed." Mia's eyes widened. She had never imagined facing such danger. Yet she remembered what she had learned about kindness and courage. "We can show them that fighting is not the only choice," she said softly. "If they see respect and care, they might choose peace." The Queen smiled faintly, proud of the child's understanding. "Exactly. You have reminded me that leadership is not only about strength, but about heart. We will send envoys to speak with their leaders, but I want you to come with us." Tom, standing nearby, looked concerned. "Mia, this could be dangerous," he said, his voice filled with worry. "Are you sure you want to go?" Mia took her father's hand and squeezed it gently. "I have to help. I have learned that even small acts can make a difference." "I want to try," Queen nodded, and instructed the team to prepare a ship for travel. The vessel was sleek, powered by starlight energy and equipped with shields strong enough to withstand minor attacks. Mia helped pack small gifts and tools for diplomacy, paper stars, drawings, and simple crafts that carried messages of kindness and cooperation. As they approached the Zoroth system, the fleet of the aggressive leaders came into view. Their ships were large and intimidating, designed for war. Yet the Queen remained calm. Her confidence and presence were reassuring to all aboard the human ship. Mia looked at the enemy fleet with curiosity, not fear. She remembered that courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. The envoys sent by the Queen landed on the planet targeted for invasion. Leaders from the Zeroth system met them with suspicion and cold expressions. They had expected threats, demands, and fear. Instead, they were greeted by calm words, gentle gestures, and a child holding small gifts. Mia stepped forward and handed each leader a paper star, explaining that it represented courage, hope, and kindness. At first, the leaders were confused. They had never been treated this way. One of them, a tall figure with blue skin and sharp eyes, spoke in a low voice. "Why do you come here without weapons or threats? What do you expect?" Mia looked at the leader directly. "We want to help you understand that you do not need to fight. You can make choices with care. Your people, and all people, deserve safety, respect, and hope. You can choose peace and still be strong." The words were simple, yet they carried weight. The leaders exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. They had always believed that power came from force, that fear was the only language others understood. Yet this small human child spoke with a calm authority they could not ignore. The Queen stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. "Strength is not measured by the weapons you carry or the fleets you command," she said. "True strength comes from courage, wisdom, and the ability to protect without harming. Your people deserve peace. I offer it freely, but I will defend those in need if you choose otherwise." The leaders were silent for a long moment. Mia continued to speak, sharing stories of small acts of bravery and kindness across the galaxy. She told them about communities helping each other, about humans finding solutions together, and about the power of courage without violence. Slowly, the leaders began to listen. They saw the sincerity in Mia's eyes and the calm authority in the Queen's presence. They realized that force was not the only path. The humans and the Queen had shown them a different way, a way that did not require war but still demanded respect. After hours of discussion, the Zorath leaders agreed to a peaceful resolution. They would withdraw their forces and allow the smaller planet to govern itself freely. In return, the Queen offered guidance and support, helping the system build stronger communities and cooperative networks. The success of the mission was celebrated quietly, but it carried a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Courage, kindness, and wisdom could overcome fear and aggression. Back on Orion Prime, the palace was filled with quiet pride and relief. Mia had helped prevent a war through her bravery and insight. The Queen thanked her personally, placing a gentle hand on the child's shoulder. "You have reminded me that even the smallest beings can change the course of events. Your courage has saved lives and taught leaders that peace is possible." Tom hugged his daughter tightly, proud yet humble. He had always known that Mia was brave and kind, but seeing her influence decisions on a galactic scale was beyond anything he could have imagined. In the following weeks, the ripple effect continued. Other systems, hearing of the Queen's peaceful approach and the courage of the human child, began to reconsider their own actions. Conflicts were resolved without bloodshed. Trade agreements were strengthened, and cooperation across the stars grew. Mia's lessons of courage and kindness were reaching far beyond Orion Prime. Yet challenges continued. Not all leaders welcomed the change. Some saw the Queen's new approach as weakness and plotted in secret to challenge her authority. Mia learned that courage also meant standing firm in the face of opposition. The Queen, guided by the child's wisdom, prepared to meet these challenges with patience, strategy, and kindness. One evening, the Queen took Mia and Tom to a quiet garden within the palace. The garden was filled with glowing plants and floating flowers, a creation of both the Queen and Mia. The child ran among the plants, laughing as the lights reflected in her eyes. The Queen watched, her heart lightened by the joy she had almost forgotten. "Mia," the Queen said softly, You have done more than I could have imagined. You have reminded me that even a child's heart can hold courage greater than armies. You have shown that kindness is stronger than fear." Mia smiled, picking a glowing flower and offering it to the queen. "I only wanted to help," she said simply. "I wanted everyone to be safe and happy." The queen knelt to Mia's level, holding her small hands gently. "And you have succeeded. You have changed not only the galaxy but also my heart. Your bravery and care will be remembered for generations." Tom watched the exchange, feeling both awe and gratitude. He realized that his daughter's courage and kindness had done more than influence a queen. It had begun a transformation across the stars. The ripple they had started was growing, touching lives, shaping decisions, and inspiring hope. In the weeks that followed, the palace prepared for new challenges. Envoys from distant systems arrived, curious about the human child and the queen's peaceful approach. Mia welcomed them with small gifts and simple words of encouragement. She spoke of courage, kindness, and hope, and leaders listened. Inspired by the wisdom of someone so young, yet so brave, the queen's influence grew stronger, tempered by the lessons Mia had taught her. Together, they addressed issues across the galaxy, resolving conflicts, fostering cooperation, and spreading the idea that power and kindness could coexist. The story of the janitor's daughter and the Queen of Galaxies became a legend, whispered among workers, diplomats, and leaders alike, and through it all, Mia remained humble. She continued to create small gifts, teach simple lessons, and share her heart with those around her. She knew that courage was not about seeking fame or reward. It was about doing what was right, helping others, and standing firm in the face of fear. The galaxy had begun to change. Leaders learned to listen, communities learned to cooperate, and fear lost its grip on many hearts. The queen, once silent and distant, now ruled with warmth, wisdom, and courage, guided by the bravery of a small human child. And so, life on our Yon Prime and beyond continued, vibrant with hope, alive with courage, and filled with the quiet power of kindness. Mia, the janitor's daughter, had shown that even the smallest being could create ripples that reached across the stars. She had proven that courage and kindness were forces stronger than fear, and that the heart, more than any weapon, could change the galaxy. The galaxy had changed in ways few had imagined. Orion Prime, once a station of strict rules, fear, and silence, now thrived with life, hope, and cooperation. The Queen of Galaxies had learned from a small human child, Mia, that courage and kindness could accomplish what armies and weapons never could. Systems that had once been enemies now worked together. Trade routes flourished, conflicts were resolved peacefully, and leaders began to consult rather than command. Mia's presence had become a symbol of hope. Her simple acts, forming a paper flower, folding paper stars, sharing kindness, had rippled across the stars. Yet the queen knew that challenges still remained. Some civilizations were skeptical, and old grudges had not entirely vanished. To secure lasting peace, the queen decided to take a journey, accompanied by Mia and her father Tom. The journey began on a bright morning. Ships left the station, sleek and shining, powered by starlight energy and guided by experienced pilots. Mia ran along the corridors, her small satchel bouncing on her shoulder, excited for the adventure ahead. Tom walked beside her, proud yet cautious. The queen followed, regal and calm, her presence commanding yet gentle. Their first stop was the planet Lyros, a world rich with forests and rivers, yet recently troubled by disputes between neighboring cities. The queen met with the leaders, listening carefully to their concerns. Mia offered small gifts, simple tokens of goodwill, and spoke to the people with honesty and warmth. Her words reminded the leaders that cooperation was stronger than conflict, and kindness could inspire loyalty and trust. "Your people care for each other," Mia said, looking at a group of children playing near the river. "If you listen to them and help them, they will help you in return." The leaders nodded slowly, realizing the truth in the child's words. They agreed to new agreements, promising to work together to restore the rivers, forests, and cities. Mia's presence had reminded them that even small voices could carry great wisdom. Next, the Queen, Mia, and Tom traveled to the star system of Doriel, where tensions had risen due to resource shortages. The Queen called a council of leaders from nearby planets. For the first time, a human child spoke openly in a room filled with powerful rulers. "You do not need to fight over resources," Mia said calmly. "If you share, everyone will have enough. You can be strong by working together, not by taking from each other." The rulers were surprised at the simplicity and truth of her words. The Queen added her voice, reinforcing the message. "Mia reminds us that leadership is not only power or control, it is courage, kindness, and wisdom. A ruler's strength is measured by how well they protect and care for their people." Discussions lasted for hours, but the result was clear. Agreements were made to share resources fairly, to support struggling planets, and to avoid conflict. The child who had once been a janitor's daughter had inspired a solution that even seasoned leaders could not have found alone. Throughout the journey, Mia continued to create small tokens of hope. She folded paper flowers for leaders, painted murals on walls, and shared stories from Earth that inspired laughter, reflection, and cooperation. Even the Queen's advisors, who had once doubted the power of a child, began to see the influence of small acts carried with courage and heart. One evening, after a long day of travel and meetings, the Queen brought Mia and Tom to a quiet planet on the edge of a sparkling nebula. The sky was filled with shifting colors, and the air carried a gentle hum that resonated with the heart. The Queen knelt beside Mia and spoke softly. "You have done more than I ever expected," she said. "Your courage, kindness, and vision have changed not only my heart, but the hearts of many across the galaxy. I wish to make a promise today, in the presence of these stars, and your brave spirit." Mia looked up at the Queen, curiosity shining in her eyes. Tom held his daughter's hand, proud yet awed by the moment. "I promise," the Queen continued, "that from this day forward, no voice shall be silenced, no courage ignored, and no act of kindness forgotten. All who act with heart and bravery, no matter how small, shall be honored and respected. Your actions, Mia, shall serve as a guide to all leaders and civilizations." Tears of joy filled Mia's eyes. She had never imagined that her simple acts could create such a promise. "I just wanted to help," she said softly. "You have done much more than help," the Queen replied. "You have reminded the galaxy that courage, kindness, and hope are more powerful than fear or force. Your heart has become a beacon." The journey continued as they visited planets in need, offering guidance, support, and inspiration. Leaders who had once relied on fear now relied on cooperation. Communities rebuilt themselves with the help of shared knowledge, and the ripple of hope continued to grow across the stars. On one planet, a city was recovering from a recent storm that had destroyed homes and crops. Mia worked alongside the children, teaching them to rebuild and to create small gifts of encouragement for their neighbors. The Queen oversaw the effort, ensuring that resources were distributed fairly and that the people learned to support each other. Tom helped organize work and encouraged everyone to act with patience and care. The city flourished. The people celebrated with music, dancing, and laughter. The Queen stood at the edge of the crowd, watching the joy and cooperation inspired by a small human child. She realized that true power was not in domination but in nurturing the courage and hope of others as their journey neared its end. The Queen and Mia returned to Orion Prime. The palace was transformed, reflecting the light, hope, and courage that had spread throughout the galaxy. Workers, diplomats, and visitors alike shared stories of Mia's courage, the Queen's wisdom, and the changes they had witnessed. Even distant systems had sent messages of gratitude. Inspired by the small human whose heart had guided a powerful ruler, the Queen called a gathering in the Grand Hall. Leaders, ambassadors, and citizens from countless worlds assembled. Mia and Tom stood at her side, their presence symbolizing the courage, kindness, and hope that had shaped the galaxy. The Queen spoke, her voice clear and strong. "Today, we celebrate more than peace. We celebrate the courage of one human child who reminded us that kindness and bravery are the greatest powers in the universe. From this day forward, all who act with courage, compassion, and hope shall be honored. Let this promise guide our actions and our hearts. Applause and cheers filled the hall. Leaders and citizens alike bowed in respect to Mia, acknowledging the bravery and wisdom of a child who had changed the course of history. Tom held her hand tightly, proud beyond words. The Queen placed a gentle hand on Mia's shoulder, her eyes shining with gratitude and pride. In the days that followed, Mia continued her work, sharing lessons, folding paper stars, creating murals, and inspiring courage wherever she went. The Queen, guided by the child's example, ruled with a balance of strength, wisdom, and compassion. Conflicts were resolved with care. Cooperation flourished. Fear lost its hold on many hearts. Mia's influence continued to grow across the galaxy. Stories of her courage and kindness were shared from planet to planet. Children learned that small acts could have great impact. Leaders learned that listening, understanding, and acting with care were stronger than force. And the Queen, once feared and distant, now inspired loyalty, respect, and admiration across the stars. One evening, as the stars shimmered brilliantly above Arian Prime, Mia stood on the observation deck looking out at the galaxy. The Queen joined her presence calm and radiant. "You see what you have done, Mia?" The Queen asked softly. "You have created a ripple that will last for generations. The galaxy has learned from your heart, and I will continue to guide it with the lessons you have taught me." Mia smiled, feeling a quiet pride. "I only did what I could. I wanted everyone to be safe and happy." "And you have succeeded beyond measure," the Queen replied. "Courage, kindness, and hope are now the guiding forces of this galaxy. Your heart has changed more than you know." Tom stood nearby, holding his daughter's hand, grateful and amazed. He realized that the bravery and kindness of a small human child had reached further than he could ever imagine. The galaxy had learned that power without heart was incomplete, and that even the smallest voice could echo across the stars. From that day forward, the Queen of Galaxies ruled with balance and wisdom, guided by the courage of a human child. Mia continued to inspire, create, and teach, proving that hope and kindness could transform even the vastest reaches of the universe. And so, the galaxy thrived. Planets cooperated, civilizations flourished, and the light of courage and kindness spread further than anyone had thought possible. A janitor's daughter had offered a small gift. Yet it had changed the hearts of leaders, inspired countless beings, and reminded the Queen that true power came from the heart. In the end, the Queen of Galaxies kept her promise. Every voice mattered, every act of courage was honored, and every act of kindness shaped the future. And the story of Mia, the human child who had changed the galaxy, would be remembered for generations, shining example that even the smallest among us could create ripples that touched the stars.